Hey there, this video is on factoring trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. In other words, it's backwards FOIL. So when we do FOIL, we do the first, that's my f, so that's x squared. Then we do the o, which is plus 3x, the I, which is plus 2x, and the L, which is plus 6. So here's my I, and here's my O. And then what usually happens is we can add the O and the I to get a single term. So in looking at this polynomial right here, let's see where those numbers came from. The x squared was my f, the 6 is my L, and the 5x is O plus I, which means if I'm trying to go backwards, I need to look at the first term and the last term for these first terms and the last terms, but I need to figure out what combination works so that the O plus I gives me the right number. So let me use the same problem, and I'm going to write it here as if it's a brand new problem that we're supposed to factor. X squared plus 5x plus 6. And we're going to do backwards FOIL on it. We know that the x squared has to give me x and x, because that's the f of FOIL. And the numbers that I put in these two spots have to multiply to give me 6. But wait a minute, that could be 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. How do you know which one to put in there? Well, you don't. In this case, we already know the answer, but if it was just a regular problem, I wouldn't know the answer, so I would just have to try one. So let's say I try plus 1 plus 6. I would need to check my O, which is 6x, and my I, which is plus 1x, that is 7x. That does not work. So then I would erase that, and then I would try something else. So then I might try 2 and 3. Plus 2 plus 3. Now in this case, my O is 3x, and my I is 2x, which adds together to give me 5x, which was exactly what I was looking for. So let's look at some problems. Okay, here are some problems. Feel free to stop the video and try them first. I'm just going to walk through them right now with the correct answers. So for this first one, I put my parentheses down, and I know it's got to be x and x, because this is the f of FOIL. This is the L of FOIL, but I have choices. It might be a 1 and an 8 or 2 times 4. I do know that they're both going to be positive because the O and the I are giving me a positive 6x. So if it's a positive here, I either need 2 negatives or 2 positives. So in other words, I could have -1 and -8 and -2 and -4, because all 4 of these will give me a product of positive 8. But because the sum, the O and the I, is positive, I can just cross these out right away. I'm just going to check the 1, 8, 2, and 4. So let's put plus 2 plus 4 and see what happens. If I check my O, I get 4x. My I is plus 2x. That is 6x. So that is the correct answer. Next one, I put my parentheses down. I'm going to stick a 1 there, because remember, if there's no number, there's a 1. So it's x and x. Oh boy, 42. I got 1 times 42, 2 times 21. Let's see, 3 times 14, and 6 times 7. Okay, I got 4 things I got to try there. Okay, let's try something here. I'm going to put a 3 and a 14. Okay, now I got to think through this a second, because notice that This is a negative 42, which means one of these two numbers has to be negative. And you got to choose. So I'll just put a plus here and a minus here and see what happens. My O and my I give me a negative 14x plus 3x. Well, that's negative 11x, so that will not work. Okay, notice what happens if I just change the signs. What if I make this one a minus and this one a plus? Well, then I get a positive 14x minus 3x, which is a positive 11x. So just changing the signs here and here will just change the signs here. So I really didn't even need to try this one, because if the first one didn't work, that one's not going to work either. So now I think I'll erase those, and I'm going to try 6 and 7. So I'm going to put a minus 6 and a plus 7 and see what happens. My O gives me 7x, and my I gives me minus 6x. That's a 1x. Oh, almost. I need a negative 1x. So what that means is I just need to change the signs and make this one a plus and this one a minus, because then it's negative 7x plus 6x, which is negative 1x. So I tried this one and it didn't work. And I tried this one, it did work. You know, sometimes it'll be the first thing you try. Sometimes you might have to try all of them before you come up with the one that works. Okay, last two on this page. These look very similar. I know I'm going to have x and x, but to get a 6, I need a 1 and a 6, or a 2 and a 3. Now the thing is here, this is a negative, so one of these has to be a minus. So let's do, I'll just do plus 1 minus 6. My O is negative 6x. My I is plus 1x, and that works. Okay, over here, it's an x and an x again. It's still a 1 and a 6 and a 2 and a 3, but for this one, it's a positive 6. So these are either both negative or both positive. So if I try plus 1 plus 6, my O is 6x, my I is 1x. That doesn't work because that's 7x. Okay, let's try the 2 and the 3. I'll erase these two and I'll put in a 2 and a 3. So here's the plus 2, here's the plus 3. I get 3x plus 2x is 5x. Right term, wrong sign, which simply means I need to go back and make these both minuses so that the sum is a negative 5x. So now it's negative 3x minus 2x equals negative 5x. Okay, are you ready for a shortcut? Because here it comes. There's an amazing shortcut that you can use to factor trinomials like this as long as there is no coefficient in front of the x squared. So this is the way it works. You're still going to start with your x and your x. And now we know from before, we need to look at numbers that multiply to give me 8. But the shortcut is this. The numbers that you put here and here have to multiply to give you the last number, and they have to add to give you the middle number. So when I'm looking at my options, I ask myself the question, what two numbers multiply to give me 8 and add to give me 6? Well, that has to be 2 and 4. So it's plus 2 plus 4. Let's look at some more. Okay, let's look at these problems. First one, I've got a 32. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 32 and add to give me 12. So I'm still going to start with my list. I've got 1 times 32, 2 times 16, 4 times 8, and that's it. So when I look at those, I'm looking for the pair that add to give me 12. So that's super easy. There it is. So this is going to be plus 4 plus 8. Over to the next one, I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 10 and add to give me 3. So here you got to be a little bit careful, because if that's a negative number there, I'm still going to look at my numbers 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. But you got to keep in mind that one of the numbers has to be negative. So if I were to write them all out, it would look like this instead. It would be negative 1, positive 10, or it could be positive 1, negative 10, negative 2, positive 5, or it could be positive 2 and negative 5. So when you look at these and you want them to add to give you a positive 3, that would be this pair right here. So it's kind of like looking at subtraction. If this is a minus, think of two numbers that subtract to give you this number when this is a minus, because one of them will be positive and one will be negative. And so that'll come into play a little bit. So in this case, I would put minus 2 plus 5. Check your O and your I. 5x minus 2x. It works. Okay, let's look at a few problems that are a little more complicated. This has a number in front of the x squared, and so does this. So you may not use the shortcut. It does not work. But if you notice, there is a common factor of 6 showing up here that we need to pull out, because you always look for the GCF first. So I'm going to pull out a 6. Using backwards distributive, I say 6 times what gives me 6x squared. That's an x squared. 6 times what gives me minus 24x. That would be minus 4x. And 6 times what gives me a positive 18. That would be plus 3. Now, the 6 is done. I can just carry it down. But this is going to do a backwards FOIL factoring. So now I put my x and my x, and I ask the shortcut question. What two numbers multiply to give you 3, add to give you negative 4? Now, you only have one option for 3, and that's 1 times 3. Now, if they're going to add to give me a negative 4, that would make me think that this should be a minus 1 and a minus 3. So if I check my O and my I, minus 3x minus 1x is negative 4x. Same thing is going to happen over here. There's a common factor of 7. So 7 times x squared is 7x squared. 7 times a minus 3x will give me the minus 21x. And 7 times a minus 10 gives me the minus 70. The 7 comes down because it's part of my answer. And the backwards FOIL gives me x and x. And then I look at the factors of 10, 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 10, add to give me negative 3, which means one of these has to be positive and one of them has to be negative. And the ones that work are 2 and 5, where the 5 is negative and the 2 is positive. My O and my I is 2x minus 5x. That gives me my negative 3x. Okay, I want to look at just one more problem. X to the 4th minus 7x squared plus 12. Anytime you see the exponents being half the size or twice, depending on how you look at it, if this exponent's half of this, it's still backwards FOIL. Now, most of the ones we look at are going to be x squared and x. This is x to the 4th and x squared. So let me just show you how that works in case you run into that. This would factor to be x squared and x squared. I'm still going to use that same shortcut. I've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I need two numbers that multiply to give me positive 12 and add to give me negative 7. Now, this is a plus, which means I'm looking for either two positives or two negatives. So what's going to work is this if I make them both minuses. So minus 3, minus 4. And now you might think you're done, but I just noticed this is a difference of squares. I've got to go one more step. So the x squared, minus 3 is done, but the x squared minus 4 becomes x plus 2 x minus 2. So always look to make sure that, first of all, you look for your common factor and pull it out if it's there. That's what we did here. And always look at your answer and always say, is there anything that I can still do here that I haven't done yet? Okay, so I think you're ready to do, you have 2 days of working on backwards FOIL. And as long as the number in front is a 1, like it is here and here and here, you can use that shortcut. And you say, what multiplies to give me this, adds to give me this. All right.